Solid waste management. It's important. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, Americans create an average of 251 million tons of solid waste every year. Most of that is going to landfills, being incinerated, or dumped in the ocean. That is not sustainable. Before making this film, I knew recycling and composting were good, but I did not realize how much is being done and how much more could be done. I looked at Brattleboro Union High School, Windham County, and Vermont's current management and plans to see what my community is doing and what I can do as an individual to cut back on harmful waste and live more resiliently in this ever-changing world. But why is it a problem? We all know that we should recycle and compost and that it is better for the environment. It boils down to three basic concepts: the law of conservation of mass, conservation of energy, and the first law of thermodynamics. The law of conservation of mass states that matter can neither be created nor destroyed, but it can be rearranged. The law of conservation of energy says the same applies to energy, except instead of rearranged, it can be transformed. The first law of thermodynamics says that in any energy transformation, anytime we use energy, some is lost. But how does it apply to solid waste management? Since energy and mass cannot be created, every time energy is used to make something, and then is put into permanent disuse, the universe loses that material, and the energy becomes ambient heat, which will never be useful again. This means if we keep using things without putting anything back into circulation, we will eventually run out of stuff. Reusing and recycling build resilience, which we need if we plan to survive in the world we like to live in. If everyone on the earth lived as the average American does, we would require 4 Earths worth of mass and energy to sustain that. And this is not the whole problem. As trash breaks down, it does not just produce carbon dioxide, which can be harmful to the atmosphere. It produces methane, which is 21% more potent as a greenhouse gas. On top of that, the Earth has limited storage. Only so many landfills can be increased in size before they are full. Incinerators might be a good option if they did not unleash awful toxins into the air. And clearly there are problems with dumping stuff in the ocean. In order to start big change, we have to look within ourselves and our community. I spoke with Kristen Benoit and Bob Spencer of Windham Solid Waste Management District for their knowledge and perspective. They started by telling me the plan for Brattleboro Union High School's new composting program.
Because right now in the cafeteria you have all these waste stations and you have one recycling bin over there. So we are going to start composting at the high school. And we've bought new waste stations and signs for the cafeteria and the kitchens, and you're going to start sorting your food scraps and non-recyclable paper from your other cafeteria waste. And we're hoping to greatly reduce your trash based on the waste audit that we just did.
And what did those audit results show?
About 80% actually of the sorted trash was compostable.
From the cafeteria.
Yeah.
That's a large amount.
And that the reason it's so high is it includes paper, soiled paper, and cardboard. It's not just strictly food.
The cafeteria at BUHS produces over a ton of waste each week. If 80% of that starts going to compost, that would already be a massive impact. Then I asked what else is going on in the Windham community.
So the status of composting in Windham County and Brattleboro is that Brattleboro is the first town in Vermont to have curbside collection of food scraps. They started that a year ago, May 2013, after a pilot project in the fall of 2012. We have about 1,000 volunteer households participating out of almost 3,000 total households that are eligible for curbside trash.
So there's some of what's going on in our small community, but let's go a little larger. The Vermont legislature is putting steps in place to ensure increased recycling and composting. In June of 2012, a bill was unanimously passed. The Universal Recycling Law, which would be phased out over the next 8 years. It encompasses many players involved, from individual consumers to haulers and facilities. This is the path that individual citizens of Vermont will follow. Next July, it will be illegal to dispose of metal, glass, paper, plastics 1 and 2, and cardboard. In 2016, clean wood and leaf debris must be recycled. By 2020, all food scraps will be composted or recycled. That can be hard if we think we will have to sort all our recyclables, trash, and compostables on our own. But fear not! Haulers will be coming along with laws that correspond with those of individuals, only they have to start at least a year earlier. So now we each have plans, but we are not the biggest disposers. What about those massive supermarkets, schools, and even general stores and restaurants? They have their rules to follow too. Phasing these changes makes it easier for institutions to adjust to the laws. These dates are when places who produce more than these numbers of tons will be legally required to compost. So living in Vermont, we are already at an advantage in terms of being surrounded by the influence to keep composting. Bob explained why the law was put into place when he talked about citizens' mindsets around reuse.
Recycling has stagnated, though. That's why the legislature passed Act 148 2 years ago, because it had pretty much leveled off statewide around 30% of total waste was being recycled. Brattleboro was at that. The state had a goal of over 50% that was set back in 2000. And they were realizing they weren't going to get there. So Act 148 was the legislature's way to increase recycling, and a lot of that is based on education and awareness.
We know what to do about rearranging stuff. It's not hard to recycle and compost when we know it means saving the world. But how do we transform energy so it stays useful? This requires a little creativity. Bob Spencer explained a little bit about what Windham Solid Waste is already doing to generate energy and put it back in circulation.
We here at Windham Solid Waste actually are turning trash into energy. That's because our closed landfill, which is situated right here on Old Ferry Road, generates methane gas, which is a natural byproduct of degradation. And we have a methane collection system and an electrical generator that is producing electricity and selling it to the grid. So that's already happening and has been for many years. We are also looking at new sources of methane because the landfill is declining.
So there we have what is already going on in Brattleboro. But as it is, it will not last. I took a look at a plant in Alexandria, Virginia, where they have been burning garbage and transforming the energy to be usable on the grid since 1988. In the past years, they have been putting enough energy back on the grid to reliably power 20,000 houses. There are pollution control mechanisms that ensure energy is generated cleanly. This is an incredible plant, and here is how it works. Dump trucks pick up and bring municipal waste to a large pit located next to the energy converting facility. A claw grabs the trash and places it into the incinerator. The incinerator then mixes the waste at temperatures up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which uses the combustion to create steam to power the turbines, which produce electricity. After being used, the metals in the waste are separated from the rest and brought to a recycling facility. The rest of the trash is burned and the ash is transported to be used to line landfills. This is one way to convert energy back to a useful form. Bob talked about what he wants the future of Windham Solid Waste to hold in terms of more generation of electricity.
We have started to explore what's called anaerobic digestion, where you purposely collect food waste just like you would for composting and put it in a reactor vessel and make methane and make electricity. And I do think that that will have a good chance of occurring here in Brattleboro, right or up.
And we know what anaerobic digestion is from the previous film on the use of biogas. Cost, of course, is the main problem with moving forward with all of these more environmentally resilient options. In this battle to maintain our resilience as individuals and a community, awareness of what we throw away and what we do not is one of our best weapons. So we have options as individuals to manage our solid waste. We can recycle and compost even if it means walking a few more steps to a farther bin. We can make conscious decisions about buying products that we will be able to dispose of responsibly. As we purchase and consume, we can think about whether we really need the item and how soon before it will break. And beyond that, tell people about this problem. Tell people about methane gas and Trash Island. Tell people about Act 148 and trash to energy facilities. Find out more and tell me. Thank you for your time.